Assalamu alaikum everybody, and welcome back to my channel. It's your girl Soda2 aka Bint Fatima. So today's video will be a recipe video slash cook with me video. I'm not going to be doing a lot of talking. It'll just be me doing a voiceover of the process of me making an Ethiopian bread called kitta. I believe this bread is also made in Somalia, Yemen, and other East African, North African countries. But the way that I learned it was from my Ethiopian friend, shout out to Sabah. And so I'm going to be teaching you guys how to make it that way, inshallah. So what you're seeing me do right now is just preparing all of my ingredients, as well as like cleaning up my counter space, getting plates, cups, spoons, and all that I need. Right now I'm taking some butter and I just popped it in the microwave to soften it just a little bit. Again, grabbing all of my ingredients. I'll be listing all of the ingredients that you need to make this in the description box below, as well as in the comment section. I'll pin it at one of the top comments. But basically all you need is all-purpose flour, baking powder, vegetable oil, butter, and salt, and water. So I gave you guys an angle that was kind of weird, but hopefully you can see what I'm doing. So first I'm pouring in the flour, and I didn't measure it ahead of time. I'm going to measure it afterwards just to let you guys know exactly how much flour you'll need, and I'll post it up here on this screen, inshallah. So that's me getting the cup and just making sure that I'm measuring to let you guys know. So it ended up being probably 1.5 cups of flour, and this yielded me about 3 kitta. And now I'm grabbing the baking powder, and I was using different cups just to kind of measure how much I usually would eyeball, and it ended up being just 1 teaspoon of baking powder. So what you're seeing me do here is first put the salt in my hands and then try to use a measuring spoon to see how much I would usually eyeball, and I believe it ended up being about 1/4 of a tablespoon. I'm sorry, this is the second time I've recorded this. 1/4 of a teaspoon. Now I'm going to mix my dry ingredients together. So again, that was flour, baking powder, and salt. So I just had a bottle of water lying around in my room and decided to use that as the water to cook with, and the water was halfway finished and I used about half of the half. So there are 16 ounces in a bottle, so 1/4 of that would be 4 ounces, and I'll try to find out how much that equals to in in cups, inshallah. But as you'll see me going along, my dough was a little bit dry, so I did add a lot more water, and I would just say to kind of like feel the dough out and see how dry it feels, or if it feels a little bit too wet, and just adjust accordingly. So I believe I kneaded the dough for a little bit, and then I added about a tablespoon's worth of vegetable oil, which you'll see me doing in a little bit. And after adding about a tablespoon's worth of vegetable oil, I still felt that my dough was a little bit too dry, and then I added some more oil and it ended up being too wet. So then I had to add more flour and more water and more oil. So you'll see me going through that process. But basically, I would say stick to just adding maybe 4 ounces, and I'll figure out how much that is in cups of water, and just a tablespoon of oil. And if your dough feels a little bit too dry, just add a teeny tiny bit of oil to make it work out a bit more. So these next couple of clips will just be me kneading the dough and kind of learning through experimentation what worked and what didn't work. Yeah. So I slowed the video down just a bit, back to normal speed, I guess, just to show you guys what the dough should look like when it should be about ready. I kneaded my dough for about 5 minutes, and again, I made some adjustments, added some flour, added some more water, added a bit more oil, and you will know that the dough is good when it's no longer kind of like sticking to your fingers or sticking to the bowl. Again, we're back at normal speed just because I wanted to show you guys what the finished kneaded dough product was like, and I made it into the shape of a ball. So now the next step that I'm going to do is separate my dough. I initially was aiming to separate it into like 4 pieces because I was going to try and make 4 pieces of kitta, but I didn't have enough dough. I guess I made a little less than I usually do make, so I just wound up making 3 relatively equal size pieces of dough. Why am I forgetting words in English? But you'll see me take one of the dough pieces, and I'm gonna show you guys how I roll it out with just one, and then I'll speed through the next 3 portions, inshallah. So I got my melted butter on the side. I take a little bit of flour that I also had on the side and sprinkle the countertop with it. Again, my countertop is clean because I washed it, so make sure to wash your countertop or to have a clean cutting board or something like that. So first I rolled it into a ball, and then I put it on the counter and just kind of smush it down into a flat circle. And you're probably wondering, like, why are you rolling like that? Like, just hold the handles. It's because I got this roller, what are they called? Rolling pin from Aldi's, and the sides were kind of jagged. Like, it was cheap, but it kind of made me scared that I would get a splinter or something like that, so that's why I was rolling that way. Towards the end of the video, you'll see me roll normally. But anyway, I'm rolling this out, and you're gonna try and roll it into as much of the shape of a circle as you can. Mine didn't really work out into being a circle, and sorry, my camera angle wasn't that great, so you guys can't like see the entire thing, but you try to roll it out as much as possible, as thin as possible, into the shape of a circle. Okay, so now that I'm satisfied with the size of it, because it's pretty big, I'm taking my melted butter, or my room temperature butter, like it's softened. And I don't know why I'm using my finger, y'all. I'm so nasty, but don't worry. I ended up using that butter to make myself eggs and didn't contaminate anybody else in the house. But anyway, I take about like a tablespoon amount or a chunk of butter, and I spread it all throughout the dough. So my friend Sabah told me that this is the most important part. Make sure you have a stick of butter and not butter that's like in a, what is it called, the jars. I don't know, you know what I'm talking about. I'll insert a picture, but make sure to use stick butter. And then I fold it over onto itself to make a cylinder and then a square, and I moved it a little bit too fast, so then I brought it back to show you guys it's a folded square, and then I set it aside. Now I'm going to be doing this, repeating this process, and I make sure to wipe my hands in between just because I don't want the other pieces of dough to kind of get like buttery before it's ready for that to happen. So I'm rolling it out again, and because my countertop is whatever material it is, it didn't stick to the counter, so I didn't end up sprinkling as much flour all over the place. But I'm repeating the same process with the other 2 pieces of dough, and I'll come back when I'm ready for the next step. Also, I forgot to mention that if you have plastic wrap like Saran wrap or something that you can cover the dough with once you set it aside, that would be ideal, just because you don't want it to like dry up while it's sitting aside. I didn't have Saran wrap or plastic wrap, but I tried to work as fast as I could. I'm a very slow cook, so that didn't work out, but alhamdulillah, like the end result was good. And the 2 plates that I had on the side, one of them I'm using to place the dough, and the second one I'll be using once I fry up these pieces. Okay, so now I'm moving on to the second step, which is to roll the squares that I've folded aside into larger squares. So you're seeing I'm dusting a lot more flour here just because the melted butter is on the inside, right? So if I don't add flour, then it's gonna end up sticking all over the place, all over the rolling pin and the counter. And I believe Sabah said the more flour you add, the better. So I tried to make sure to like add as much flour as possible. And I'm rolling in the direction of the two sides of the square, I guess 4 sides, I don't know. And I'm just trying to stretch it out as much as possible. And the way that I'm holding the rolling pin and doing it is all the way not good. And that's why it's taking me a while. But ideally, you want to get it as flat as possible. And again, I'm adding a little bit of flour and just rolling it out to be as big as I can get it. The flatter, I think, the better, just because then it'll cook all the way through. And yeah, so that's how I do it. Okay, here you see me hesitantly trying to hold the rolling pin correctly, and it ended up working out and I didn't get any splinters, alhamdulillah. No soda tubes were harmed in this process, so I'm really happy. And as you can see, when I actually held the rolling pin correctly, you'll see that the dough stretched out a lot more, and you're trying to get it as flat as possible without any like folds. So you see the little fold on the left side. I try to flatten it out as much as possible. So on the side, as I'm rolling this, I also have a pan sitting on the side, which you'll see in a second. It's a non-stick pan. You don't need a non-stick pan. I don't know why I used one. I usually don't. And sorry for the angle. This was the only way I could prop my phone, was on an oatmeal box thingy. So I have my heat on about like 9 or 8. And then I sprinkle a little bit of vegetable oil on the stove. And I wait for that to heat up just a little bit, like just to get warm enough so when you put your hand over it, you should feel the heat coming from it. This is totally unrelated, but watching myself put my hand over the stove cracks me up, because there was once upon a time when like I did not do that type of stuff because I was scared of the heat. But my mom once told me that women don't burn, which is not true. But anyway, so here I am moving the angle just so you can get a better look. Again, putting my hand just to feel the heat of the oil. Adjusting my camera again. And I believe I'm about to take the kitta now and put it on the stove. So to hello, hi. Okay, again, moving the angle, or trying to angle it correctly. And okay, when does this end? What? Should I just skip over this? Like, what is this? Okay, so now I have the dough and I put it on and try to make sure it's as flat as possible on the pan, just because you want it to cook all the way through, and it can only happen if it's all the way flat and there's no folds. So there I go, putting it on the pan. And you'll watch and see that as the time goes on, the dough will start to inflate just a little bit. And I believe Sabah told me that the more butter you add, the more it inflates. So yeah, if you like the inflation, it's that you have. Forget English. If you like that, just add more butter to your dough. So I'm sitting here and I'm gonna let you guys watch this in real time, just so you guys can see how long it takes to cook it. I forgot to mention, I have like a cup on the side with a little bit of oil just to make it convenient for me to be able to add oil as I go. And I also have that spoon so I can turn it over around a couple minutes. So I believe it took me about like 6 minutes to cook each one. I'll have to go back and double check, but about 3 minutes on each side. And as you can see, the dough is starting to rise a bit. And when it starts rising, I add oil. I take a tablespoon or so of oil and just sprinkle it on the top. And you might want to repeat that again and again, maybe once or twice, not again and again and again. But so you're gonna let it inflate and you're gonna keep turning it over and over. And usually when you see the dough rise like to the maximum that it can rise. And if you kind of lift it from one corner and see that it's starting to turn like golden brown, then you know that it's time to flip. But I cooked each piece of bread, I believe 3 minutes on each side, or maybe 2 minutes on each side, and that was about adequate. So here you see me kind of sort of struggling to flip it just because I think the spoon wasn't big enough. I don't know. But you can see now that I flipped it, the other side is a beautiful golden brown. Love the color of this one. And I'm just going to let the other side cook for a couple more minutes before I take it off of the stove. And then what you're going to be watching the next couple of minutes will just be me showing a speeded up version of cooking the other 2 pieces of dough. And yeah, hopefully this was helpful and enjoyable, and hopefully you learned something from this video. I know it's Ramadan right now, so this could be like an iftar thing or a suhoor thing. It doesn't take too long. It's pretty easy, doesn't have a lot of ingredients, and it tastes absolutely delicious. Okay, 10 out of 10, highly recommend. And yeah, I guess I'll catch you guys towards the end of the video when I say my outro. So cooking is all done. I cleaned up the kitchen and now I'm trying to show you what the finished product looks like, but I'm distracted because I'm trying to also watch a video or something at the same time. But basically I made myself a cup of peppermint tea, got myself a little bit of honey, and yeah, do the dance girl, do the dance girl. When we're happy and ready to eat, we dance, okay? So here I am just setting up and eating, and I forgot to take a picture of the actual bread before I started eating because I'm hungry, but it tasted really good. In this next clip, I'm just annoyed at the fact that I keep getting Korean commercials with no subtitles.
미국에 와서 뭐 10년 살고 계신 분들께 물어봐도 과제라는 말씀을 하세요. 제가 갖고 있는 게 이만큼이라도 표현할 수...
No subtitles. That was the end of the video. I hope you guys had fun watching. I had fun putting this together. And inshallah, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Assalamu alaikum. Peace and love. Bye bye.